Hey, if you're a fitness coach, in this video, I want to show you how to create predictable profit inside of your business, not just for the sake of making more revenue or making more money. I want to help you if you're the coach who's truly passionate about who you serve. You get lit up when your clients are radically transforming their life, to help you just build in stability and profit. So whether you're a coach who you're still trading in the dollars per hour, I want to help you get out of that. If you're a coach who doesn't know where the next lead is coming from, I want to help you get out of that place. I want to help you get to a spot where you are ultimately living the life that you should be living with your passion, your knowledge, and the people you want to help. Because I've been in the fitness industry for nearly 20 years. I've experienced it all. Out of high school, 18, I got my personal training cert. I full-time personal trained through college. At college, I was a D1 assistant strength coach there, got my CSCS. And then from there, I went and opened up my own small little training studio gym, built and sold that. And then over the past 5 years, me and my wife have scaled up our online fitness company to multiple seven figures. But the revenue amount doesn't matter. What matters is you just getting to a place where you can serve and amplify your voice the way you should, and you can make the income that you deserve. But also, most importantly, if you're like me, you have kids, build stability for the people that you love and count on you with your passion and purpose. So let's get into this. All right, I got my timer on because sometimes I can ramble, but let's get into this. So how to build predictable profit as a fitness coach. And so the first thing I want you to realize is once you start to grow, you actually start to make some serious momentum. Like I thought, once we are going on that upward trajectory, it's just going to be up, 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 and up. And the reality is what it usually looks like is this wave of up and down, trying to get to a place of growth. And so, I've seen it time and time. I've been around people who are doing 400, 500. I know somebody who's done 750K per month in their business, but the profit margins are super low. Something happens, like the current funnel stops being as profitable, closers quit, or your coach quits, whatever it may be, your ad account gets shut down. And since we were in this kind of just desire to grow at all costs, we lost sight of the things that are going to provide more stability inside of our business. And that's what I want to help you guide you to, and avoid kind of getting trapped into the momentum, the upward tick, and thinking that it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. And so what I've seen with these coaches, people who get into this success where we were, right? You get into what I call the dreaded cash loop, meaning you max out your book of people that you can help. So what do you need next? You need to hire a coach. And so since you hire a coach though, but now you need to figure out how to make more sales so you can keep their book full while still making the money that you need to make. So then you hire maybe an ad agency, maybe you hire salespeople to get more leads and ultimately create more sales. But then what happens, right? Now you max out that coach's book, and then you need to hire another coach, and you just get stuck into this ever-evolving loop where the only solution forward is more revenue. And so, if you're getting out, coach, and you're crushing it right now, it might be because you got into a little bit of a blue ocean of a market, right? I've seen a lot of coaches doing I'm looking for 5 people type ads that everyone runs. Maybe they find a little niche, right? And it's working well. But if you don't set up things that last, people will come and duplicate you. There will be more competition in the market, everyone putting out the same generic ads, and you'll be left wondering why it's so much harder to sell people, right? My one buddy, he, coaches first responders, and, he scaled up to 500K months, and then a couple years go by, his revenue's cut in half, even less. He has to let a bunch of people go because other people found out that that's a profitable market, and people started duplicating, and everyone's just running these very much hyper, just hire me now type ads. And so let's get into not only how to create predictable profit in your business, get more leads, get more sales, but start making something that's more stable. And so if you're starting out, you've never ran ads, we need to figure out how to start small and make it profitable, and then prepare properly to scale big. I'm also going to go into why you should run your own ads, what type of ads I'm liking right now, what we will do differently in our business, fitness business going forward. I'm going to go over the 500K per month mistake I've seen over and over by other people. And I'm going to give you a little gifty gift for you at the end. That's hopefully something that you can take with you at every step of scaling and growing your business. So who am I? I'm not going to be the guy who's just shouting, numbers, all these sales, right? I'm the guy who's going to help you develop systems to create profit first. So I'm the profit first coach. We've done 2.5 million plus inside our online fitness company. It's allowed me and my wife both to work from home, be present with our kids. But I'm not saying that didn't come without struggles, that we haven't had, very tumultuous moments where we're figuring out, do we let everyone go or do we continue to try to grow? I've also built and launched and generated 50K week launches on low ticket products with companies like WODPrep, helping them also scale up their ads, so on and so forth. And I've built and sold a small group personal training gym. And most importantly, though, I just love fitness. I love movement. I love helping other people get moving. And I just want to help more coaches to help more people. And I think that's where I can be best served, is to help more coaches amplify their voice and grow. And so today, I want to help you build a profitable, stable, and high-impact coaching business that provides you autonomy over your time. And I think that is one of the most painful things I see when I go to the gym and I see trainers not knowing where the next sale is coming from. Their value that they're selling people is their time. Yes, you're giving them your knowledge, but the only way you make more money is by sacrificing more of your time. And so if you get to a place where you have kids and you're doing the early mornings, the evenings, you get to a spot where I got to make this money, but I don't get to see my kids, right? And so I want to help you break away from that and use your knowledge as the value and the outcome you're going to give people versus your time. And so first things first, I see so many people, coaches, telling people that, their offer sucks. They got to get better with their offer, and they look at it from the wrong end. And if you've heard this before, hopefully I'm going to give you a different little twist and nuance on this, but this is going to make or break how well your ads do. And so, for example, me and my wife, we first started out being the face of the company. We just kind of put up generic ads where it was kind of, we help everyone do everything, and our ads fell on deaf ears. And it wasn't until we not only niched down, but then started to look at how do we niche down to an affluent market that also has the buying behavior and interest in our type of product that made our ads convert so much better and sales become so much easier. And so we'll talk more about that. Then we're going to get into, once we kind of go over the concepts of nailing an offer, then I want you to get started on what I call a 3K a month proof of concept. So you can ultimately get to a spot where you're selling 3K per day, which averages out across 365 days to $1 million in revenue. And then the first campaign type that you have to run, if you've never ran ads before, is something that's cheap traffic, low risk, so you can ultimately get more reps. And then lastly, once you prove that you can sell one person in 30 days on your package with low risk, low ad spend, right? Now you need to go and figure out how to scale based on projections and not feelings. I see so many coaches get to this spot where they max out their book and they're working a lot. And I've been there where you're wearing every single hat, you're making all the content, doing all the sales calls, you're doing all the coaching, whatever it is, whether you're in person or online, right? And you want to scale out to maybe hiring another coach just based on the fact that you're busy and not based on the projections that you're going to need at that next scale mark, at that next big revenue mile marker. And if you can figure out what your projections are beforehand, what you need, the numbers you need to be hitting to make the profit that you want at that higher level, you're going to make your life significantly easier, not run into the mistakes that we did. And so let me play you these two videos. I might have to pause it here to get them dialed in, but I'm going to show you the difference. So first video I'm going to show you is coach we worked with in the past. Brandon Ford's a great guy. I'm not knocking him in any sense. He's super knowledgeable. And then I'm going to show you a clip of Steve Jobs and just the subtle difference of what it takes to create an affluent market offer. So let's get into this.
So many people blame their ads or their marketing, but in reality, your product sucks in the sense of you don't have a clear concept of who you're trying to target.
And then let's watch Steve Jobs.
Cohesive, larger vision. How does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. How does...
All right. And so what does that look like? And for you specifically. And so the different angle I want you to take away from this when I'm talking about creating an affluent market offer is so many coaches like Brandon, right? The offer sucks. You don't have clear concepts, but you're thinking of your offer from your vantage point and not the customer that you want vantage point, right? And so I first have to identify who's the customer that I want, right? What are the problems that they have that I can help with? But most importantly, people that have the capital to spend on the thing that I want to sell them, do they have the purchasing interest and behavior in the type of product I sell? And if I can locate those things and then work backwards from there with my offer, I'm going to make selling so much easier. So I see so many coaches struggle with people with leads that aren't qualified, right? It's hard to find people that are, have the money to purchase their product, right? And it's because they didn't start with this lens first, like Steve Jobs talks about, starting with the customer experience from their end of the people that we want to sell. What do they want and how can I be of service to them? And then work our way backwards. And so when we're looking at how to create a sticky offer, right? We want three things. We want to go after large demos that have money and demand to solve a problem that's growing. So meaning, does this segment of people that I'm going after, do they have capital? And the amount of people in that market that are wanting to solve that problem, is that market and interest growing? And so, for example, right, my buddy who owns WOD Prep, he sells to CrossFitters. It's been a much larger struggle over the years because the demand and the pool of people that are trying to get better at CrossFit is shrinking, right? And so over the years, he used to be super hyper profitable when CrossFit is growing, right? We know that market on average, they make around 6 figures. That's like the average demo of a CrossFitter, right? But now that the problem and the market of that is growing, it's harder for him to make sales, right? And then within that demo, do they have the purchasing behavior that we want, right? And so for context, if I were trying to sell a supplement, right, would it be easier to sell it to somebody who already has the behavior of purchasing a lot of supplements, right? Or try to gear a supplement towards a market of people that don't ever really buy supplements, and I have to educate them and convince them to buy my product, right? It's always going to be so much easier to gear that product towards somebody that already has that purchasing behavior and type that we want for our product. So if I were selling a supplement, right, I'd go and try to get, other influencers in different fitness atmospheres, high rocks, CrossFit, powerlifting, bodybuilding, whatever it may be, to be promoting that supplement to somebody, right? To people, an audience that's already bullish on buying supplements, right? And so if we can identify those two things, then us as the coach, we have to identify, do we belong to those groups? And so now let's use me and my wife's company for an example. So we eventually made her the face because she's better looking than me. So go me. Meta told us her ads convert a lot better. So put the ego aside. We made her the face of the company, which was a great move. And so then we started going towards women, which helped a bit, right? But it was like the generic, I help busy professional moms, worked for a little while, and then that market got super saturated. So then we took a step further, like, okay, first of all, who are the people that we like to serve the most? Well, they're typically like former CrossFitters, former women who have done Orange Theory or some type of high intensity, because we used to own like an unaffiliated CrossFit gym, right? We have that background. My wife's also a former athlete, high level gymnast. So we also were like, okay, athletes in there, they typically end up being successful later in life. And then moms who, not just starting their fitness journey being a mom, but moms who have been that person who feels like that pillar of strength and then maybe feels like they have lost it on the back end. And so they're breaking away from typically the CrossFitters, the athletes, and the moms within that. They're all people that A, have capital, B, also have an understanding of purchasing coaching, right? If I were just trying to go moms, or we were trying to go moms who were just starting their fitness journey, have never, ever thought about trying to get healthy, purchase fitness, something high ticket, right? It's going to be a lot harder to convince them because they don't have that price anchor to the things that they've purchased in the past, right? They don't have that experience of, what it means to have a, high level coach coaching them and being held accountable, right? And so for us, then selling became so much easier when we really looked at the demo who has the capital. Again, former CrossFitters, typically 6-figure salaries, athletes end up continuing to make decent money because they're driven. And then moms who are looking to reclaim or build back better than before, who already were into fitness prior, right? They're all people that have the demand, the interest, but then, we layer in that mom aspect. They're training and wanting to be healthy for something bigger than themselves, right? A deeper meaning, a deeper purpose, which is going to be somebody who we can draw to wanting to be a part of our coaching so much easier. And so that is the affluent market. That's the sticky product offer. So for you, right, looking at who are these groups that I belong to? And so demos, right, we're looking at, it could be Christians. I see people doing well with Christians. I see people doing well, Asian coaches going after Asian people. Always trying to find the demos that have the capital, right? We know women from like 55 to 70 are typically one of the biggest stores of wealth in the country because husbands tend to die 10 to 15 years earlier. So they get inheritance from their family, maybe retirement from themselves, maybe their husband's retirement as well. And so trying to find demos that have capital, demos that you belong to, and also have that interest. Can we craft the marketing towards people that have the interest for our type of product? So if we can nail that, then it's going to make creating our 3K a month proof of concept so much easier. So if you're going to get started, you got your offer, you're going to get started on ads. These are the things we need to get started. So first, we need a traffic campaign or a boosted campaign to an IG page that has cheap costs. But with this type of campaign, it's going to be a lower quality action intent. So we're going to pay less to get people into our funnel, but out of them, let's say we get 100, maybe 10 of them, 15 of them display the behavior of becoming a lead and selling, right? What this allows us to do is start to get a lot of reps for cheap. That's what we need. We need to be able to put up just $15, $20, $25 per day, get a lot of reps, and prove to ourselves that we can convert one person to our page within a 30-day time period and then scale up from there, right? Because again, we're building in profitability. I don't want you to go to some lead campaign or sales campaign where the cost per lead is $10, $15, right? And you don't have your marketing dialed. And so you're wasting a lot more, out of that $15, WordPress, they're getting like 50-cent followers. So out of that 15, he gets 30 reps versus you get one rep, right? And so then later on, if we prove this to ourselves that we can get people, then we graduate to more efficient campaigns because we've proven that the marketing is working and we can get the person, right? So then on top of that, all you need to go alongside of this is a 3-part podcast series VSL. It could even be 1 part or 1 VSL video. You just need to know your avatar and how they like to consume content. So we tried so many years to nail our VSL video for these moms, right? Again, if they're a fluent mom, they're working, they have kids, they get up in the morning, maybe they get a workout in for themselves. Then they got to do breakfast and get lunch ready, and then they got to get themselves ready, and then they got to get out the door and get everyone to school, then they got to go to work, and then after work they got to go to practice and pick up the kids from practice, and they got to come home and do dinner and bedtime routine. They don't have time to have a 20-minute uninterrupted window to watch a video versus a podcast. They can listen on the way to work, they can listen while they're watching practice, right? We found podcasts got people so much more bought in. So something that's high quality and sustenance, right? We need to have something that has sustenance that is getting people bought into the method before us ever trying to pitch them, right? If I can get somebody bought into the method before they ever hop on a sales call with me, they're already at that next logical conclusion of purchasing our product. If I love the method, the next logical conclusion is purchasing the product. And then at this 3K a month proof of concept, you started running your campaign, you need to know your numbers or you're going to F around and you're going to find out the pain that is awaiting you at a larger scale. So let's get into some of the proof inside of this cheap follower funnel, Instagram growth funnel. I don't want you to stay in it forever. A lot of people are touting it for, further and beyond. It's it's only funnel that a lot of coaches can get running and rolling because nobody's taught them the fundamentals of scaling up to a higher quality intent campaign. So for us, Instagram followers, I picked an average week. So we've had weeks where our return on ad spend is 17. We've had weeks where our return on ad spend is about 2. but we right around 7 is kind of where our return on ad spend on this is. But we get to a certain point where there's so many people coming in, we have to hire so many setters, right? That now we're starting to lose money because trying to reach all these people, engage with all these people just becomes overwhelming. And so we actually want to decrease lead quantity later on and focus on quality. So for us, an average week, right, cost per follower, $4. We've gotten it low as 50 cents, but we found at $5, we're getting slightly better people if we have the right messaging. Total spent $1,000. We sold $8,000 in that week. Cost per acquisition of $542. Return on ad spend 7.47, which is great. So let's walk into how to set this up. All right, so let's break down how to start boosting a post. So we've boosted posts in the past where we're getting leads in for a couple dollars. We're getting leads in for $5, right? And so if you've seen people say, hey, you're going to boost a post, you're going to do that Instagram growth funnel where it's, say, hey, if you're this person, you have this problem, this problem, this problem, follow my page for more free info. People have seen that all the time now. They know that when they go to this page, they're going to get DM'd. So what we find that works better is something that's more inspirational. It doesn't even talk about following us. And I'll show you the results of this post, right? We're calling out our ideal avatar moms, identity change, right? But you're not alone. We've helped 700 plus ambitious moms reclaim their energy, power, confidence by aligning their health, blah, blah, blah. There's no call to action in any of this. And you'll see in our ad, we've spent $3,000 and we got 2,216 followers. So about a little under a follower per dollar, right? And so all of these people we can start engaging with, right? Like I showed you those numbers in the past. And so let's say you were going to boost a post. You haven't ran paid traffic in the past. Let me just choose new music, right? Select that. And so this is how simple it needs to be. What I recommend is you get set up your ads account, Facebook ads account, you get up your business profile, you get your pixel set up, and you link your Instagram page to that. There's plenty of YouTube videos on how to set that all up. You can your way through it, screenshot where you're at next, send it, what do I do now? But even if you can't do all of that, I want you to get started with something. So you can just go to your post, boost it from your page. Don't boost it from your phone or you'll pay a tax to Apple. You put in your card payment here, and then it's super simple. Visit your profile, right? And then we're going to create an audience. So let's run through an audience. I just made this one, but let's show you how to create your own, right? So I'm creating the audience. I turn off Advantage Plus audience. I put on locations. I'm going to put in states. So again, we sell across the country. If you are a local trainer, you're trying to get people to your gym, right? Or train with you. All you got to do is just put it in your town, your county, and it'll target them really well. All right. And so ages. So again, for these moms, we're looking at more like 35 to 55, right? And anytime we go above 55, we find that they run into a lot of tech issues, right? Trying to get them to, even just be sold or get into our program. Let me name this audience. I got to show you interest. So here's where interests come in, and it's just going to allow you to get in front of your audience, your ideal avatar, a little bit faster. Your ads will still get to them eventually if it's positioned correctly, right? But I want to just give it a jumping off point. So again, right, like we talked about our affluent avatar, I'm going to put in CrossFit, right? And then I'm going to put in motherhood. And then I'm going to put in fitness. And so super generic, it's hitting all three of the kind of branches of people that we want. So when we think of interest, right, a lot of people are saying go after a high luxury brand interest. That's cool. You can do that for sure. But the problem is interests aren't awarded the way they used to be, right? Interests are based on what is your feed showing you that you're interested in right now. So if you're saying, let's go after Williams-Sonoma, right? Well, if they're really into home goods and or like home renovations right now, and I put my fitness ad, I try to get my fitness ad in front of them, it's not going to resonate with them because that's not what the algorithm is feeding them, right? I want people who are getting fed because they've been scrolling and stopping on some type of fitness post. I want women who are into CrossFit, right? Their feed is filled with CrossFit people, and then we can put in a message talking about, the disadvantages of always doing high intensity interval training, right? Or motherhood. Again, since we are really going after moms, they're into motherhood, we have a higher probability of them aligning with the thing that we're trying to put in front of their face, right? So keep it simple, right? Save this. Now you have your audience saved, right? And then give yourself a good naming acronym: CrossFit, motherhood, motherhood, fitness, and ages 35 to 55. So that way you know exactly what it is if you ever want to use this audience again. And then I just boost reel. And so this is where knowing your numbers. So let's say you're selling a package or a program, right? And it's $3,000. I need to get my cost per acquisition underneath 25% of my total product package price with ad. So if I'm selling a $3,000 product, that means I want to acquire a customer within $750 or less. And then I can spread that out across how long I want to test. So it can be 30 days. You could go out to 60 days if you want your budget in half. So at 30 days, that would be $25 a day, right? That's all I got to do to just prove that I can get them sell my avatar within that price. Or let's say you don't want to be running $25 a day. You can take it down to $12 a day and say, okay, within 60 days, can I sell somebody within $750 from my page, right? Boost the reel, get it rocking and rolling. And if you're seeing your cost per people following you, well above, $5, that means you need to change your ad. You need to change your page. Let's say you're getting a good cost per click from your ad at like 50 cents, but people aren't following you. It means that your page isn't convincing enough to get them to want to follow you. And so for us, the nice part about this funnel is that this essentially acts as your nurturing system without having to install a bunch of tech, like having your email list ready, your CRM ready, having your text options available for when you start to go to more higher intent campaign type. So for us, when we have open enrollment, right, we have the highlights here where it goes method, program, testimonials in order. So they click through, we get countless people booking calls on their own that way when we sold with calls. We have our stories that they might stumble upon clicking through stories. We have our pin posts, right? This is a new one. We have an older one that has like 900 comments on it of people opting in for our podcast VSL. And that sends a DM automation with our CRM where we're getting in a DM conversation. We push the VSL to them. They opt in on that page with their email. And now we still have them in a conversation started. We can start by cold outreaching to these followers, right? Instead of going and trying to find people to outreach to, you're getting people to your page who your ideal avatar is. And so this allows, if they're, paying attention, they're zombie scrolling, you have a post, by chance, it can get your post back in front of them versus like you're doing it with email or things like that. So this is an easy way for you to create more omnipresent noise for your potential clients. So let's keep moving forward. I'm going to go back to the presentation. All right, and so now, right, like I talked about, now we're pushing all those people on our page to our podcast VSL series that's worked best for us. And so if we're going to sell people on our product, we need to not just like say, hey, here's a product, here's a fitness product, join, right? Everyone knows what fitness is, but we need to have a unique, proprietary, phased out approach to get people to go from point A to point B, the outcome that they want. And so we try to identify people with one common problem that has sequential steps to solve, right? And then with that, we need to create what we call the epiphany bridge, right? If you've ever read Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets, if you've never read that, I highly suggest picking that up. So our VSL needs to create aha moments for these ideal avatars. I know people who have gone after people who are trying to bulk up. I know people who are going after people that struggle with bulking and cutting and never being able to actually really maintain and stay lean and jacked at the same time, right? And so then we try to interject phases. So for us, right, moms who have kind of struggled with dieting or have kind of lost their composition, it's feeling a lot harder, right? We show them first we have to get into the weight loss phase, understand where your metabolic needs are. But the aha moment that we show them is like, look, you can't keep under eating for the rest of your life. You need to learn how to come out of a diet correctly, right? But then through that, and once we kind of get to that maintenance phase, we also need to be learning how to train to build, right? Instead of training to burn. We show them how when you just do cardio, right, and you're burning calories, it's not the same thing that's going to help you long-term as building up lean body mass, which is what you've typically lost going through motherhood, so on and so forth. And that's going to speed up your metabolism more than anything. So we get them to see that this is different than just losing weight, a generic fitness program. We show them that, oh man, I go to 1 to 2 to 3, and then that makes so much more sense why I've struggled with this because I haven't done it that way. So then all those people that we're pushing to our page, they're commenting, we're getting in the conversation, we're pushing them to this VSL podcast, right? If we can get them bought into the method, the next logical solution is to purchase our product, right? So once we started switching to a VSL podcast that we knew that women were loving, they're coming to us, they're DMing us after they listen. Oh my gosh, I love this. You explain this in a way I've never heard before. And it's so much easier to get them onto a call or sell them in the DMs like we did. And so this is where now, let's say you've proved to yourself you can sell a customer for $3,000 or less, right? You got your avatar down. You're starting to find some momentum. Now we need to, again, know our numbers or we're going to fuck around and find out. And so cost per acquisition should not exceed 25% of your front end offer. We need to have a 4x ROAS. So again, 20% of a 3K product, $750. I think that's 25%, $25 across 3 days. And then here's the key is once you start getting people and you're having conversations, you're trying to sell them, you just Donkey Kong your way to your first sale. Meaning, right, you get the ad going, you find that it's not getting a lot of followers. You figure out, you position the ad, you change the ad. Now it's getting a lot of people to your page, or maybe now they're not officially following you. Now you tweak your headline, you tweak your starting post, you tweak your highlights, you make your page a little bit better that people now, you're getting a higher percent of visits to follow you, right? And then let's say you're starting a conversation, but people aren't replying, right? You figure out a way to start to get them to reply. You just keep taking reps. And then let's say you put out a VSL, you're not getting people coming back saying like, I listened to it, it was amazing, right? You slightly change up the VSL, the podcast, right? And then now all of a sudden people are coming back to you like, oh man, like this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. Like I love this. Each step you start to get signals of what is getting better. But then we need to know our projections, our numbers at a larger scale and save for those projections before we scale pending on our risk tolerance. Meaning we need to be able to know what's our future projections, forecast for higher ad spend, right? The expenses we're going to have in our business and keep the profit that we want and change the numbers now at a smaller scale before we go up. So let's run into some numbers inside my profitability calculator. I'm going to pull that up. All right. So here is our profitability calculator. So let's say I want to get a $3,000 client. It's going to automatically adjust how much my ad spend is going to be at 25% of revenue. And we're going to say cost per DM convo. This number doesn't actually matter. And then let's say my cost per acquisition is at $1,000. Right, on a product price point of $3,000, right? So now I'm go down here and I'm looking at my profit margin is 52%, right? So that means out of all my expenses, so the ad spend, right, which was, $1,000, let's say that, and I'm going to put my cost per acquisition down to $750 because that's what we wanted at for that, right? So 2% Stripe fees, 3% depending on whatever payment processor you use, your training app, nutrition app, funnel CRM if you have that, ad spend $750, miscellaneous 5%, total expenses $1,300. You made $2,266 on that sale, which is great. So our total net margin is awesome. But now let's say everything's the same. Our cost per acquisition is $750. Our product price point is $3,000. All of our clients, we're only getting about 20% of them to re-sign, right? Now at $25,000, we're going to start needing coaches, right? And so let's say I want to sell $25,000 in 1 month, right? So now we're looking at $6,000 of ad spend, right? Let's put our cost per acquisition down to $750, right? And let's put our product price point at $3,000, and we're still at 20%, right? Now, let's say we hire a setter, right? And they're taking about 10% or a sales team eventually later on. This number could be a little bit lower at the start for sure. Coaches taking about 15%. Let me put this at 15, right? So now we're already down to total net margin of 35%. Still not bad. You're taking home 10K. Sounds good, right? And so this is where we ran into issues with scaling is not knowing our next projection, right? What's it going to look like at the same level at this next monthly amount. And so now let's go to 50,000. So ad spend's up to 12. Let's say now our cost per acquisition is at 1,000, right? Because we're getting bigger, we're not as efficient, right? Product price point's still at 3,000, 20%. Sales team commission 15%. We'll keep it at 10 at this level. Coaches taking about 20% of your revenue, right? And so now you'll see that your profit margin is getting down to 27%. And so now you made $12,000 profit, but at this $25,000, you made $10,000 in profit, right? Because now you're hiring more people, right? And now your expenses are almost 3 times what you're bringing in profit. So that means every month you're on the hook for 3x what you're making in profit per month. Right? And so now if you have a bad month, down month, you have to figure out, do I want to keep paying these coaches and sales team even though we're not selling and waste money on ads, right? And so this is where you need to start figuring out how much profit do I want to have at that next level. So here are the 3 biggest levers we can pull to increase our profit at each stage. So let's say our cost per acquisition went up. Now we put a big effort to get it back down to 750 before we decide to scale up to, let's say, 100K per month. Sweet. Now you see our profit margin just jumped up 5%. Now we're taking home 20K. Our expenses are a little bit higher, right? Because if we were spending the same amount on ads, right, we're getting more clients in there, right, to coach. So we need the coaches. The coaches are going to be making more, right, of all of that. But you'll see that now we're down to 1 to 2 of our expenses to net profit. So we're not on the hook with as much risk. But let's say I still wanted to get a little bit better, right? I wanted to get up to around 40% profit margin. Well, the next big lever that we can pull is increasing our product price point, right? And so then we just run a test. If I sell it for $4,000, do I still keep the cost per acquisition at $750? You don't need to freak out, right, about that. Just test it for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Can I sell people for the same cost per acquisition at $4,000? Now you'll see our profit nearly, doubled, or not doubled, but went up almost nearly 10%. So now we have $32,000 of profit, and our total expenses are $47,000 at this level, right? And now our new gross sales is $66,000 off of this ad spend because we increased our product price point and our cost per acquisition is still at a great spot. But let's say I wanted to get even better, right? The next big lever we have to pull is LTV, how long our clients stick around. So let's say out of 17 clients that we've signed, we're getting 40% of them to re-sign for a equal duration package. That's a big effort that we put in with our product. We got our re-sign rates from like 28% up to right at 39%. And this was huge for us, right? And so now you see our profit margin is nearly 45%. We're only at an $8,000 difference, which is great, right? Now we're almost hitting total total monthly revenue at $93,000 without having to go up and spend so much more on ads and have so much more risk like we've been in the past, like we have seen so many other coaches do. And so let's say we went and we tried to bro scale our way up like we did to 100K. And the numbers don't change, right? So I'm shooting for 100,000. I'm spending $25,000 on ads. My cost per acquisition is still high because we have more people, more leads, and the machine's just getting not as efficient. I keep my product price point the same, 20% on re-sign rates, right? I go down here, my total net profit is $23,000 versus, right, $42,000 here because I played with better numbers, right? So I'm spending half as much on ads, but I'm making double the profit I am at 100K. So scaling up to 6 figures per month at 100K isn't always sexy, right? At $21,000, we almost have $70,000 in expenses, which I've seen so many coaches have. I've known people who have been doing 500K, but their profit is $70,000, right? That means if you have a few down months, you are eating into profit so fast to cover your expenses, right? It's 500 to 70,000. Let's just say it's 50,000. You're looking at, your profit doesn't even cover. It's like 1 month. It would take 6 months of consistent profit to be able to cover 1 month of expenses if you have a down month, right? And so we don't want you to be eating into profit. We want to create stability. So let's keep rolling. These are the numbers this is how it looks to create financial projections for your company to create profit and stability. And so a quick reminder is at every stage when you're thinking about growing, run the numbers, see what it looks like at that next scale, and try to change the key lever before you grow, right? So can we increase product price point, right? Can we decrease our cost per acquisition? Can we get re-sign rates up? That's going to ultimately give us so much more profit, which is ultimately what we want. We don't want to get to 100K. We're managing so many more people. Our expenses are so much higher to get to barely any more profit. We want to have more maximized profit at each stage. All right. So hopefully you're still rocking with me. Now I'm going to get into why you should run your own ads. So let's run some numbers. We've spent $90K on ad agencies. If I had ran ads myself, put that $90K into Ads Manager, that would be 180 more customers if my cost per acquisition was at $500. That means of 180 customers at our $4,200 product price point, I would have $756,000 more in revenue. And so when you are starting to run your ads, it is so simple, and agencies overcharge by the bucketful. It takes, once you get good at it, it takes about 10 minutes to set up a campaign, 15 minutes, right? You put it up there and it's working. You're not touching it, right? You're paying for these ad agencies to just set these things up, set it and forget it, and they're copying and pasting their ads and other people's ads into yours. And this is where your ads start to fall on deaf ears, because they're just putting out the same message as everyone else, the cheapest, easiest, predictable, or cheapest, easiest, and copy and paste, least time committal way for them to start running your ads. So you can spend an extra $4,000 to learn, educate yourself, and you're most likely still going to, even if you're not the best ads manager, you're still going to probably make some sales within that. And now you are starting to understand and own your own revenue model. And this again comes back to the $500 K per month mistake that I've seen, is people get stuck in this dreaded cash loop because they didn't know their numbers, they didn't have the right offer, their advertising is just pushing out the same generic message. Maybe they are making some money in a little blue ocean, and other people are starting to saturate it because they saw you making money. People copy it, and now you're stuck on this dreaded cash loop where we have been in the past, where you max out your book, hire a coach, more sales, more leads. And so for us, like I said, what are we focusing on going forward? We're focusing on LTV. So people come in for the outcome, they stay for the experience. If I give you one golden nugget to increase LTV here, bring in guest speakers that people feel so excited to get exclusive content to. So create your own little private podcast, have somebody who's in kind of your realm. Like, so for us, like psychologists, or, for moms, bring them in once a month. They get to be in proximity to these high value people that once they get to the end of the month, they're like, I can't leave. I'm getting proximity to all these people that I would have to go and spend thousands of dollars to get in close contact with, right? Focus on your product price point, right? So if I sell 15 customers for an extra $1,000 and CAC stays the same, that's 15K more gross revenue with no more work needed, no more team members needed, no more ad spend needed, right? And then systems, lastly, systems to coach more people while needing less coaches. So we used to customize programming. Now we don't customize programming, right? We have different tracks in person at the gym. It's all pre-programmed. We can upload it easily with a click of a button to everyone. That cut out the need to spend money on coaches to program. So now just coaches are only doing nutrition check-ins for us, right? And so now we have to pay people less, right? And so always try to find ways to lower your expenses and increase your profit. And so try to wrap this up as quick as I can. What we like now with different campaigns is campaigns that offer flexibility. So now we don't have an evergreen ad system running 24/7 that we have to nurture, and we feel like if we go on vacation, we're freaking out. What we do is we boost people to long form content. It's about 15% of our budget. We'll push it for about 2-3 weeks, turn that off. They're getting inside to our long form content. Now we pixel everyone, we get their email, we feed all that data back to Meta. Then we run a sales campaign where we can create more urgency and more offers. So we open it for a week, 2 weeks. We either do spots or we do limited time, right? And then we put up a direct offer ad and it's hitting the people that we've pulled into this long form content. Hey, I have 5 spots open, right? Or spots are open for the next 7 days, 5 days, 3 days, 1 day, right? Push them to a conversation, send them an offer letter, and then we sell them inside the DMs. And so we have 2 tiers of access. So instead of doing sales calls, right, where we push people away, we're trying to be so persuasive in an hour that this is the exact thing you need, right? We just, if they like it, they like the method, they've clicked through. I like this, cool, here's the price. Oh, I can't do that, that's too expensive. Cool, no worries. Next week, later this month, we're going to open up a different level of access. That's less customization, lower price point. Then we also push everyone once a month to some type of open masterclass where they can come in. They're spending $7 to $10, $15 to get inside of this, right? It helps cover our cost per lead acquisition, and we can still sell those people on the back end, which allows us to increase our conversion. So every fitness coach out there, if you're only doing the sales calls and you're only selling one product, right? I'm encouraging all of you to be adaptable. This day and age, we need to be able to give more offers out there, because if we don't, they're gonna run away and go to the coach that they can afford. And so my little gift to you, if you've stayed the whole way, I got real talky. I have my financial projections calculator linked below. You can go and grab that. You can run your projections, look at those numbers. All you got to do is adjust those yellow boxes that we had in there, and there should be a video demo in there linked into the spreadsheet. You can grab that. I encourage you to grab that, have that. It'll be in your sheets for life, and you can start running your financial projections with paid traffic. And then the last thing is, if you got value in this, if you're a coach who wants to increase your profit, you want to not waste $30,000 on a coach who says he's going to help you out so much, and then you get thrown into a group thing and a group chat and you never actually get any real support, you can just join my FitPro Profits membership for a $7 7-day trial. That's going to only be exclusive on this page at this price point. It's typically $97 a week. And then after the 7-day trial, if you continue, it's $47 a week. You can cancel anytime. And so in this FitPro Profits membership, we're going to get you making predictable profit as soon as possible. We're going to help you build your affluent market offer, help you to eventually, hopefully, learn to sell in the DMs like we are. And then every ad funnel we have ran successfully. Everything I'm showing you in here, we've ran Facebook group, we've ran lead forms, we've ran lead DMs, we've done engagement campaigns, we've done sales campaigns. All of them we have found success. We've done the follower campaign, right? I'm only giving you every funnel in there that we have ran successfully so you can find the one that works best for your business. At the end of the day, it's not just one size fits all. It's what works best for your business. And if you can understand the principles for each, you can change your revenue model in any direction, because what I've realized is that everything works. You just have to commit to learning it. And when people sell you on one specific method and they sold you on that product to join that coaching program to learn this one funnel, it's because it eventually works for you, because you committed to figuring it out, because you paid a large lump of sum to do that. And so you just have to find the one that works best for your life, your business, your people, so on and so forth. So I hope this video helped. Again, just to recap, you need to get your offer dialed so when you're targeting people, you're making your content, it actually sticks out. Everything is like a magazine stand. People only see what interests pertain to them. So, when I go up to a magazine stand, I see history and business and sports. My wife sees things with, motherhood, home goods, fitness, right? My kid goes up to the magazine stand, they see the Nickelodeon, so on and so forth. So we all see what pertains to us. And if you have generic marketing, you don't have your affluent offer, your ads are going to fall on deaf ears. And then beyond that, right, we need to be able to prove to ourselves that we can sell one person, the ideal avatar, somebody who has cash, they're not broke, they're not putting it on a firm, right? The ideal avatar that we want that has capital within $750 of a $3,000 product price point, or let's say 25% of whatever your product price point is. If you prove that to yourself, now you can start to scale up with your numbers so you don't run into a spot where you're working so much more, but your profit barely increases, right? And then lastly is don't get stuck in that 500, the dreaded cash loop circle. I want you to be able to keep stability and profit inside of your business. So again, if you want to join to our FitPro Profits membership to maximize profit and stability inside your business, click the link below, $7 for 7 days trial. Check it out. I would love to have you in there. Either way, I hope your business crushes, and I hope this helps.